All right, good evening and welcome to the January 27th regularly scheduled board meeting. At this time, I would ask Mr. Brian Bohannon to step up. He will be sharing our vision and mission with us this evening. Thank you, Mr. Bohannon.
Now we're on. Perfect. Good evening, everyone. I would love it if you would join me in our vision and mission statement. Dorchester School District 2 desires to be recognized as a world-class school district, expecting each student to achieve at his or her optimal level in all areas and providing all members of our district family with an environment that permits them to do their personal best. And our mission, leading the way, every student, every day, through relationships, relevance, and rigor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bohannon, and everyone else. Appreciate you joining in. All right, at this time, I would ask for a motion to approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Bates. Any questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, we will call for the vote. Okay, and the motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right, the next item on our agenda this evening are our district highlights, and I will again welcome Mr. Bohannon.
Madam Chair, Dr. Robbins, board members, always thrilling to be up here to talk about the great things going on in our districts. Last time, you remember, we had 34 of our young art students come out and receive recognitions for the Coastal Carolina Fair. And today we're going to recognize some of those teachers. Dorchester School District 2 is proud to be an award-winning leader in arts education, thanks to the dedication of our exceptional teachers. Tonight, we celebrate 7 of our schools for receiving a total of $82,000 in arts curricular innovation grants through the Distinguished Arts Program, funded by the South Carolina Department of Education. These grants support high-quality arts instruction in dance, music, theater, and visual arts, and align with the teacher's strategic arts plans to enrich student learning experiences. A number of these teachers are in attendance this evening, and when called, if they and any of their co-teachers and proud administrators would like to please come up and join them and get a photo op, that'd be great. We have certificates on hand for the grant managers of each location. And we'd love to start with Dr. Eugene Sires Elementary and Abby Clark and Colleen Smith. From Span Elementary, recognizing Kelly Brosnan and Barbara Bassett. From Joseph R. Pye Elementary, Katie Wilson and Lisa Alvarez. Represented here tonight by Assistant Principal Melody Chavela. I've got their certificates over here. Come over here. We knew they weren't going to be here, sorry. There's Katie and Lisa. No, it's just we're too good because we separate the people that aren't going to be here. No, but you can deliver for us. From Knightsville Elementary, Allison Pohl and April Cross. I've got Allison's. Allison, I've got to put your new name on this. I'm going to get you a new certificate. It's got your old name. From Fort Dorchester High School, Kevin Morrissey and Stephanie Shank. From Ashley Ridge High School, Jean Mitchum and Allison Brower. I've got Brower. And finally, from Austin Middle School, Adam Weiner and Natalie Schwieger. Keep it going. One more round of applause for all these amazing teachers.
All right. The next item on our agenda this evening are public comments on agenda items. And we have one, Miss Laura Coggins.
Hi, everybody. I noticed that we have Town Hall. A little bit more. There we go. We have Town Hall listed and wanted to first say thank you for considering that. Parents have been asking for it, and I'm glad to see that it's making it onto the agenda. With that, I know I personally won't be able to attend, so I wanted to speak briefly on communication. That's convenience, transparency, and accessibility for parents. Communication but via smartphones is huge. We pretty much expect everyone has one, and you probably have an endless number of apps yourself. For parents, I personally work about 55 hours a week on a slow week, so the fact that I have 5 apps that I use for my 3 kids is a little bit cumbersome. So I've asked that the board go ahead and begin considering what those apps are capable of and exercise those abilities more thoroughly to reduce the number of apps. This is going to save you guys time and save teachers time, which is huge, and saves us all time and money. When I have to clock out to read several emails, it takes time and money from me personally. And I do want to be in connection and have the information. For the school board information, I'm noticing via board docs, we always have the minutes, but I'm noticing the agenda, rather. Noticing that we have a lack of minutes. So we can go back and we can look at how someone voted, but there's not details. So my only choice would be to sit and watch the videos. Sometimes I just need a little piece of information, just a little follow-up. So I would appreciate if the board could begin posting those minutes again and also communicate to parents how to find that information. The bus app, Class Dojo, Parent Square, Power School, Blackboard, it's giving your teachers a lot of things to do. It gives your administrators things to do, and it's asking for items to be missed, especially even at the elementary school level where I'm already checking a communications folder, but I still need that app. So additional, and then there's also phone calls and emails. I, again, appreciate the communication options and just do want to mention policy JICFFA and the continuation of parents wanting more communication about bullying, options for bullying, so that we can prevent issues that have happened before, as Julian Brockert. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Coggins. All right, the next item on our agenda is our board chair's report. And this evening, I again have the dates listed here for our upcoming events. And I want to primarily focus on our town hall because we did have to reschedule that due to the winter weather and the fact that the county was still in a state of emergency on that Friday that it was scheduled for, so we weren't able to have it. So we have rescheduled that town hall for this coming Wednesday. That's 2 days from now at 5:30. It will be here at the district office. It will be in the room where we have our committee meetings. So, does anybody have any questions about that? And then again, these dates are up here again just for everyone's, for another reminder. We were able to schedule our winter board advance for February 10th, as we have discussed, and so more information will be coming on that. Okay, and that is all for this evening as far as my report. So we will quickly move into our board committee reports. And our first up is our policy committee. Ms. Bates.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing new today with the weather mix-up and not being able to review some policies. We did not have a meeting today, but we are moving forward with our monthly meetings for, as you can see there, February 24th, April 28th, May 19th, and June 9th. They're at 5 p.m. Other days they're at 4 p.m., depending on if we were working on budget items or various conflicts that already existed. So those are through June, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bates. Next, we have our Finance Committee. Mr. Guthrie, do you have anything for us this evening?
Nothing to report right today, but looking forward to getting the budget season started. And Mr. Lee had anything or that you wanted to add? Or
I'm looking forward to it as well. I've been ingesting through a fire hose as much as I can in the brief amount of time that I've been here, and there's a lot to digest. So looking forward to it.
Great. All right, thank you both. We appreciate that. And then finally, last but not least, certainly our Facilities Committee, Mr. Farnsworth. Any update this evening?
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly a lot of good things happening on the facilities front. So later this evening, we'll have a report both on the referendum as well as standard facilities operations. But I do want to highlight our meetings that will be coming up. So we've got those scheduled. Again, as we get into referendum projects, these meetings will be crucial, both for public interaction, just information going back and forth as we go into referendum projects. So happy to answer any questions, but other than that, nothing else from my side. Ms. Powell, anything on your side? All good, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you getting those dates out for us. Okay, next up on our agenda is our superintendent's report. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Robbins.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This Indiana native is thawing out from last week. I say that tongue in cheek, but no, safety is always our first priority, and because of the weather, obviously we had to utilize some e-learning days. I appreciate the community's support and understanding. We always try to make decisions based on safety, and it was just the best course of action for us. Tonight, we have a variety of items for you all. Just go through the list here real quick before I turn it over to the team. But our school improvement plan presentation will be from the two schools that have to provide an extra improvement plan based on their school report card, our monthly finance report. Under our student services report, we're going to provide you with a pretty descriptive look at our disciplinary metrics that we've observed over the course of last school year and first semester of this year, and how RISE has had an impact on that. And then obviously our operations report, you're going to hear about both our capital improvements plan projects, but also our referendum projects. Things are really slowly starting to pick up speed. I'm just going to kind of touch again as a reminder, the State of the District is Thursday, and after the State of the District, we will have our first groundbreaking ceremony for the 10 classroom addition at Sand Hill Elementary School. So we've got the shovels, the hard hats, and if you can be there, that would be great. We've got some photo ops ready to go. So that will be our first of a few here in the future, and then our personnel report. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Academic Officer, Katie Barker, and her team to present on our school improvement plan requirements.
Good evening. Thank you for having me back. I am here, as Dr. Robbins mentioned, because we have two schools that fall into what statute 59-18-1625. I had to ask Ms. Graham what that little symbol meant to verify that it meant statute. So what that means is that the State Department of Education determines that any schools that get a school report card rating of below average or unsatisfactory fall into an underperforming category, and it requires an additional plan. So that is why we are here tonight, is for your approval of those plans for those two schools, Alston Bailey Elementary School and River Oaks. Excuse me. And then just so you're aware of kind of what that process is, it is an addition, an amendment, if you will, to their current school renewal plan. So it should already be in alignment with what they're working on in their schools, and it just goes a little bit deeper. It has continuous every 30 days, there's progress monitoring built into a turnaround plan. They have to really dig into those specific areas from their school report card that were the lowest scoring, so that they can make sure that they are targeting those specific areas. So if you had a chance to look over those plans that were in your packet, you'll see that it targets specific areas of the school improvement plan and specific groups of students. So it goes a little bit deeper than our typical school renewal plan. And if you'll remember that when we work on school renewal plans every year, we don't have the school report card data like we do now. So this goes in alignment with that current school renewal plan. So I am happy the two principals of those schools are also here, and we are happy to answer any questions regarding the turnaround plans for Alston Bailey Elementary or for River Oaks, or any further discussion or anything you need from us before we ask for approval of those plans.
So a couple questions and maybe some comments there. The first one, so when we look at, I guess what I'm trying to understand more, this year was the first year for a new set of metrics from the state.
Yes.
Would we agree that these particular ratings have something to do with those metrics potentially?
Great question, and 100% yes. If you look at both of these school report cards, the areas that they are targeting align with that student progress measure, which is exactly what you were talking about, is that the metric changed. So overall student progress changed, and these two schools had a lower score in that area, so they're targeting that specific area. But then also, of course, if that student progress indicator changed for all students, then it also changed for specific subgroups of students. So based on each school's specific subgroup data, they're targeting, for example, our ML students. The progress in those ML students was an area of need for both of those schools. But yes, I would absolutely agree that a big change was in alignment, how we're kind of at this point was in alignment with the change in how we're reading that metric.
Would it also be safe to say, so when historically, I think when we looked at these achievement metrics, they were somewhat on a bell curve across the state. And so we had always been very, very blessed, and through hard work of our schools, our district as a whole on that bell curve did very, very, very well. Would you say moving forward, the bell curve is now, I guess the word I'm looking for, has it shifted down to more of the school level where potentially, or I should say the district level, potentially we would have schools within our district underperforming based on the bell curve coming down to the district level versus the state?
Well,
Does that make
it's
sense?
a very statistical question for my elementary brain, but I would think that yes. I think, for example, Alston Bailey and River Oaks, the student progress indicator, the ML progress indicator, but also in relation to as a district, if we look at those indicators, we have as a district have been lower scoring. We were scored lower in those areas as well. However, I will say, I think once you know how it's going to be measured, then you adjust to that. And we have been very intentional with making decisions that we're hoping to see positive impacts there, so that hopefully this was just a blip, now that we know, and we will move forward and see some more progress in those areas.
Love it. And then the last question I had, looking specifically, I was looking at the plan for Alston Bailey. And I noticed a lot of the goals and the metrics in there dealt with letters training. How does that fit in? Because I think that's something the entire district has to do, not just Alston Bailey, correct?
Absolutely. So a turnaround plan, every turnaround plan, the state requires what they call a resource equity goal. So it's just how are we showing that we are meeting a need for groups of students in that school based on resources. So a big need at all of our elementary schools is that foundational skill literacy need. So we are meeting that at Alston Bailey and at other schools as well through a focus on letters training. So that is addressing that resource equity, making sure that teachers are equipped with the skills that they need to close that gap for students.
Is there, and I guess just to dig into that a little bit more, is there anything more in detail? Because again, when you look at letters training, that's something that's being mandated by the state. We would have had to do that no matter what.
Sure.
Right?
So we do letters training is required, but if you kind of dig into the action steps, there are some additional things that Alston Bailey is doing in partnership with letters. So how they're rolling it out to the PLCs, those guiding questions that they're working on with those teachers to take it that step further. So they're kind of above that basic completing letters to ensure that they are using that skill, and then it's rolling over into the classroom.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I have a few questions. So for these line items, there's different costs associated with different things. Who determined, let's say, Elevation was the platform that they were going to use, and that was the most cost-effective and just effective overall program to utilize for this?
So Elevation specifically was a state-adopted program originally that then the state discontinued funding with. So it is a program that there is a ton of research on that our teachers were using. And when we looked at resources, and that one is ML specific, we looked at ones that were current, obviously, also supported the needs of the students and the teachers based on whichever kind of category it fell into. But that's how those decisions were made. Elevation was one specifically that was originally funded by the state, and then we continue to support that as a district.
Okay, and then as far as some of the line item costs, I'll see stuff like create a leadership committee. Oh wait, not that one. Host family engagement opportunities. And then there was another one that said, I'm trying to remember what it said. It was essentially create committees at school level, focus on various aspects of the school climate, including staff morale, teacher recognition, and student incentives. What determined the price point for each of these categories? I don't know, am I allowed to specifically say the cost? I don't know. Yeah, like, so what costs $5,000 to create committees at a school level to focus on aspects of school climate, et cetera?
Sure. So some of those things, that one, for example, might be something that aligns with funds that they have set aside in their Title I budgets, for example. So it's not necessarily that anyone told them or we told them, how are you going, this is how much money you have to spend on each of these areas, but it would align with funds that they had available. And some of them, I'm sure you saw, are state and district provided versus school. So some of that, like that one specifically, and the family one specifically, are usually funded with Title I money. So it would be money that they had set aside in their title budgets.
How can we decipher, how much of this is additional money that we're putting into the school to further this plan, and how much of it is current funds that they're already receiving? Is there a way to decipher those two?
So this, the turnaround plan does not come with any additional funds.
Okay, so
it
it's
is using the funds, which, again, if going back to their school, this is kind of an addendum to their school renewal plan. So overall, their major needs should have been identified, and those funds are set aside as part of that school renewal plan process. And then this just comes in and makes sure that now that we have more information, those specific areas align with that. I will say, just from conversations, that some of them, now that we're at this point, it might be that instead of focusing on this large group of students, we're going to focus on a smaller group of students based on the data that we have now that perhaps we didn't have when we were writing school renewal plans.
No, that definitely makes sense, and that clears it up for me, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
If I might ask a couple of questions. Unfortunately, all the pre-read stuff didn't appear in mine, so I'm coming in from a standing start, and I'm just looking at this. So just to confirm my understanding, that for River Oaks, the $94,811 that's going to cost to implement these programs, that's coming out of their budget. This is an additional funding.
So it is either school budget, some of it are things that we cover at general fund, like I think Exact Path and Study Island, for example, is a strategy. That's already funded from the district level. So it's not school-specific funding. Some of it is district or state funding, but it is not it's not additional funds that they get because of this. It was already in their budget.
Yeah, so basically out of Hyde. Taking it out of Hyde from other accounts, I get that. Okay. And then one question in terms of some of the goals. And I look at the goals and their stated increases, and maybe I don't understand this. I'll tell you this right up front. But for example, raising a goal from 22.2 to 24.2%. Okay. Why not higher?
So I think always and it's funny because we actually had a conversation with a principal about a goal that I think, let's say, went from 58% to 80%. And the 2% increase is in alignment with most of our school renewal plans because it's over 5 years. So over the course of increasing 2% a year per 5 years would be a 10% increase. But a part of this turnaround plan specifically, and I'll just point it out since you said you were catching up. If you look closer to the end under phase 4, you'll see a 30-day review process. So these plans have to be reviewed every 30 days. So we won't necessarily have end-of-year testing data there, but you'll see above that there are those kind of built-in metrics throughout to see if we're seeing progress that we would expect to see on end-of-year testing. And then once those goals are met, then we're required to update them in the turnaround plan immediately. So that way we're always moving that bar closer to that standard to get out of that below average or under. We are not in under unsatisfactory, but get above that below average category.
Okay. And I may not be asking this clearly enough, so bear with me. But my question is raising it 2%, is that a stretch? Is that good? Is that a layup, in using a basketball metaphor? Why not higher? Because as I look at the opposite, the inverse of this goal, I'm seeing numbers around 80% that aren't at the level. They're not meeting. So
Sure.
What are we doing? Maybe this is a good number. Again, I don't understand the internals underneath it, but is 2% a stretch? How do they settle on those percentages? Are they constrained because I don't have enough resources? There aren't enough hours in the day to do this? That the state is moving the goalposts on me?
Sure.
What are those kinds of things?
Well, I think there's a lot of those struggles. We do feel like 2% is a stretch, and especially if we're increasing 2%, especially when you look at this, because what that looks for that goal specifically is like the students that are getting those ML services, that's an increase to their services. So it impacts time out of class. It impacts a lot of, down the road, increasing services, resources, all of those things. Not necessarily that that's budget bound, but because of those things, we do feel like 2% is a reasonable, within reach, but a stretch goal, if that makes sense, because this plan follows them from once it's approved until the end of this school year.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But I'll always say we'll always take more than 2%, always.
So my question is actually similar. I don't know if maybe I misunderstood, but raising it the 2% or making the changes that are part of these performance goals, if that happens, does that guarantee that we're moving out of the below average range or not necessarily?
So we have no, if you remember when Mr. Schmink was here, and that progress indicator is the one that's almost impossible for us to factor in. So normally, the old way, that's what we would do, is we would go back and say, how many students do we need to move from this category to this category on SC Ready in order to get our schools out of that below average indicator, above below average in that indicator, and that's not something we can predict now. So we can't predict that the way that we historically would. So that's when we went back to that 2%, feeling like that is a goal that we can focus on and really move a specific group of students from now until the end of the year. I'm not sure I answered all parts of that.
No, that makes sense. I understand what you're talking about because I remember that conversation. But that 2% was based on a specific population of students that we...
So yes, if, for example, one of the indicators that both schools have a goal written for was the ML student progress. So our ML students and meeting that progress. So they know who those students are now. So the students that will count in that indicator now, they are already aware of that. So the things that are student specific, and you'll see that a lot of the things that are in the plans are also teacher specific and really focusing on some more training and professional development for teachers. But the things that are student specific, they are able to target those resources to those specific students.
And so these resources will go specifically towards
students this year that focuses
those specific
on, yes.
students.
And the teachers that are serving those students.
But
yes.
the benefit of the teacher piece is that will positively affect everyone in the entire school.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
And then one other question in regards to the team that will come back in and do the check-ins and the
The progress checks?
Progress checks, yes. So who makes up the teams?
So the school level team and then members of our curriculum and instruction department work, so for example, elementary and secondary. And then the state also says that they have what they call school improvement managers that work with each district, that they, after plans are submitted, that those will be assigned to the district. So we may have some state department support there as well. They haven't talked much about what that part of the process will look like yet. But that is a possibility as well. But it's a partnership between the school level team and a district team.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions? I think we're good. Thank you, Ms. Barker.
Absolutely.
Oh, and I guess so, yes, I apologize. Okay. All right. So board members, at this time, do I have a motion to approve the school improvement plans for Alston Bailey Elementary and River Oaks Middle as presented? Okay. Motion made by Ms. Bates.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Guthrie. At this time, is there any discussion regarding that motion or any questions?
As far as the follow-up and accountability, because now that it has to come to the board, what's the follow-up to us as far as getting this back out to the district, I guess is the question.
We are happy to provide an update at board meetings during our academic update as we go through those progress checks.
Okay.
Or if anything else.
So the 30-day.
And I heard 30 days, so I know within the district, they're going to do every 30 days. They have to do progress checks. I just didn't know Because I looked at the statute earlier, and I'm looking over at Christie. I don't know that there's anything in statute. Do we necessarily have to vote on anything again? Okay.
So can they make adjustments to the plan and then we would not vote on it, or, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to
Well,
understand.
that's all right. I just don't know that I know the answer to that. The only thing that we have been told is that the original plans have to be approved by the board. So I don't know if adjustments after like if there is a 30-day, one of those progress checks every 30 days indicates a need for a change, or even, let's say we do end-of-year testing and scores go up significantly and the goal's been met, even if the progress check may not have shown that, and they have to update the plan, if the update has to come back before board, that hasn't been in any communication from the State Department.
Can somebody please look into that? Because I think it would only make sense that if we're voting to approve a plan, that would be the plan until we vote to approve a different plan.
Sure.
And so I just don't understand what would be the point of voting for it to begin with if we're not going to have oversight in any way, shape, or form.
I'm happy to reach out for an answer to that question.
And then last question, I promise. Communication-wise, because again, I think the statute requires that we have to communicate this data to those populations, to those school populations?
Sure. So if a school falls in the unsatisfactory range, then there has to be a public meeting with those school families, the community. We are in the below average range, so we are not at that point yet. They're also down the road. If you do not show improvement, there are other things written about that where you have to move to that public I don't want to call it hearing, that sounds scary, but a public meeting where you invite, the school community in, but we are not at that point yet because we are in the below average range.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Madam Chairman, given that they're going to be looking at this plan, assuming we approve what's before us here every 30 days, might I recommend that maybe the superintendent can just informationally brief us and say, going according to plan, or if there are exceptions or issues, inform us of those specific issues just so that we're dealing with exceptions.
So I think what would be good is we meet once a week and once a month, and those 30-day checkups definitely will come back and have a presentation so you know what we have found at those checkup points to keep you all in the loop and communicate that. Well, I could do that as well, but it might be nice since we've mentioned it publicly now that, the community would be interested in hearing it. So I'll do both. So, yeah.
All right, excellent. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, then we will call for the vote. And the motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. Next I have up tonight is our monthly finance report. I'll ask Ms. Meunier to come up and present, please.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, and Dr. Robbins. The finance team has prepared the financial statement report for you through December 31st of 2024. Hello? Is that better?
Yeah.
It's hard to hear out here, too. I don't know if it's the vents or, I'm sorry. I'll start again. Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Robbins, this evening the finance team has prepared financial statements reports for you through December 31st of 2024. First, we'll go over our balance sheet. So our assets at the end of December were $62.1 million. We had additional cash and investments this year as a result of our savings from last year, as you can see in those two categories versus last year. Our liabilities are right on track with where they typically are it's mainly for payroll withholdings that we pay once a month to the feds, and for our insurance withholdings. Those are right on track. And then the bottom section is our fund balance. Our total fund balance at the end of December is $53.4 million, and the total of our fund balance and liabilities equals our total assets, again at $62.1 million. I did want to point out that our total fund balance at the end of December brings us down to a undesignated amount in our fund balance percentage of 16.6%, which that is the lowest that we typically go to because we haven't received any of our property tax revenues yet because tax bills went out in October. I think they went out just a tad bit later this year because of reassessment. And so we should start getting our property taxes in January and February, March. So this is the lowest point that our fund balance will look. And this is really a good place to be because that is the 2-month mark. And the Government Finance Officers Association, as our auditor was telling us last month, that is their minimum that they request for us to have. It's good to keep that as a minimum for your fund balance. So we're doing well. And we did not have to go out for any tax anticipation notes waiting for the property tax revenues to come in. So we'll look at our schedule of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Again, as of December 31st, we were talking about our tax revenues. They come in about this. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
They
good.
come in about the same time every year. So we're almost right on track with where we were last year, and we'll see an increase next year. Oh, I'm sorry, next month. Our state-aided classrooms is additional this year because of the funding formula, and it has come in higher than last year. If you look at our total revenues at the end of December, we're at $111.8 million, which is 61%. And we're at a very close percentage as we were last year. We were at 63%, but as you can tell, our revenues grew for this year and our expenditures grew for this year, but we're still within the same percentages, so we're right on track. And our expenditures through the end of December were $128.6 million. So if we can look at our cash flow statement next. This is the one with the pretty colors that Dr. Robbins made for us. And it's very informative. I love this cash flow analysis. So working from left to right, we are right in the middle with our December actual numbers. Each month shows you our actual activity for that month. The amount that's to the right showing our year-to-date totals is the total of those amounts. The January through June numbers that are shown in blue are projections because over time we receive revenues in different amounts in different months. We don't receive our revenues evenly each individual month. So we have projected out how much we are to receive for the rest of the year. I did notate that we did receive a little less money from the state. Their allocation based on our 45th day numbers, we were reduced a little bit by state money. We have an opportunity to true that up at the 135th day, and hopefully we have seen some students re-enroll or come back, so our enrollment has increased since the 45th day, which was in October, so that'll be helpful. But even if we weren't to receive all of that state aid, you can see at the end that very final number over on the far right of the 3.9, we had projected to use 4.6 of fund balance this year, but even with the state revenue allocations decreasing a slight bit, we'll still come in less than what we had received is what our than what we had predicted. So our projections are still looking good. So we feel good about where we are right now financially. At the end of the year, under the total column, even with using that $4.6 million of fund balance, or we'll be at $3.9 million of fund balance, we'll be at 19.51% of our fund balance, and the board's goal was to be at least 18% for our cash reserves. So we'll be right on target with what y'all had, one of your board goals. So those are all the numbers in a nutshell. If anybody had any specific questions.
Make a quick comment. The cash flow, I think, paints a good picture. so you can see where we're forecasting out. And as we enter budget season, Mr. Lee, Mr. Guthrie, that's a number we'll look at, to make some decisions moving forward. So this will be a good slide for you all to reference back. And again, we like to do this with forecasts and then actuals, because we did have fewer students than we forecasted, and they took us down funding-wise a little bit. But then at the 135-day mark, we're starting to see some of those students that went to the new, prep academy and some of these other locations actually re-enroll, and so they'll true us back up, at that 135-day mark. So.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I make a motion we accept the financial reports as presented for information only.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the financial reports as presented for information made by Mr. Farnsworth and a second made by Mr. Guthrie. Any questions or comments? Okay, and I do not believe this is listed as an action item, so we will take a hand vote for that. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, and the motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next up, under our Student Services Report, we have a discipline summary. I'm going to present Mr. Doherty, and is he here? Oh, there you are. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Usually sitting over here. Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair and the rest of the board members, Dr. Robbins. This evening we have Tawana Sanders and also Matt Legree, who is the assistant here at our RISE, and they're going to kind of go over our RISE report, and then we'll go over some more discipline data, but we wanted them to be able to come and share out some of the successes and some of the numbers. So I'll turn it over to Tawana and Matt.
Hey guys, Miss Sanders getting over an illness. I think she partied too hard in the snow, so I'm willing to be the spokesperson. But we do want to, we have some numbers here looking at last year, which was when the RISE model was established. RISE served a total of 324 students. 7 of those students were repeat offenders, meaning they went back to their home school and then came back to RISE during that school year. At each level, 204 of those were high school, 120 at the middle school level. Then when you look at the first semester of this school year, we have served 210 students. 4 of those are repeat offenders, or have come back to us twice. 157 at the high school level and 73 at the middle school level. When looking at the top infractions that place those students at RISE, the top 3 were THC vapes, fighting, and threats. We also had probation violations, disrespect, and phone violations. Happy to answer any questions you guys have.
I just want to say thank you, having seen RISE come online in the past couple of years compared to what we had previously, what you guys, and touring a couple of our high schools recently, that the overarching discussion was the benefit that we're seeing just of the ability for our kiddos to have that light at the end of the tunnel. Because a lot of folks, and I don't know who all remembers the history there, but when someone was sent to Givans, they were out there. They went out, whether that was for 2 weeks, whether that was for a year, but they were out at Givans with no chance of coming back. And so with RISE, we now give them the ability, based on a points and a merit system, to get back to their home school. And that's been a game changer for those kids, for the parents, to be able to see that, hey, if I do the right thing, I can get back to my home school. So I just want to again say thank you for everything you guys are doing. Really amazing, amazing stuff.
Yeah,
So,
and thank you guys for supporting the program. It's been very beneficial, and it's awesome to see the kids grow behaviorally and academically. So thank you.
I just want to say thank you to the RISE faculty, staff, and all of those that work over there. My concern is with the repeat offenders. How many times do they get to repeat and be offensive and still return? Do we have a plan or anything to address that in case we have 3, 4, 5, 6 in the same group of students? Do we have a plan in place for that? And the reason I'm asking, I don't want anything to basically destroy what we're trying to do. And unfortunately, we do have a few students who really may not have gotten the message yet. Right. And so I would like us to at least be thinking of a plan in case they don't make it at RISE. They need to know they don't have many options after that because we're giving them the best of what we have. And we don't want them to make it bad for anyone else. So if you haven't been thinking about a plan, I'd like us to work together to have a plan for them. It may be virtual school, something else, I don't know, but we can't let a few students spoil the image of what is being done for those students that are making progress.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And, you know, it's a case by case with why those kids come back. You know, we do have a great staff, and we have the ability with some of the staff we have to be intensive with certain students. And, you know, we do have a discipline matrix and referrals that we process as well. So if students aren't living up to our expectations, they run the risk of going to a hearing officer at RISE, which is the last thing we want. But as you said, it's something we will do to maintain the growth for all the other students. So great question.
Okay.
So I had the same question. I think you pretty much answered it. So there is no set amount of time somebody can repeat offend. It's just on a case by case based on the offense, the severity.
I may be wrong about this, Dr. Robin. I think that's really more up to the decision that the hearing officer makes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think you just answered your own question. It's based on a litany of things of the type of infraction, the number of infractions they've had. RISE is utilized as a last chance effort before expulsion. It's in essence in lieu of expulsion. It does not have to be offered to every single child. So I agree with Ms. Powell on, you know, what does that mean in terms of number of repeat offenders, but the number of repeat offenders we've had has been significantly low, and the expulsion examiners and the hearing officers will look at, why are you repeating, you know, and so that's the things that and Tawana was with me when we went and visited Horry County and took a look at those things. So I say that's an awesome number to only have 4 repeat offenders, but to have a plan is very important as well. But it is a kind of a gray area with that.
Okay, I had one more question, but
I'll also add that a lot of our repeat offenders are back with us for a different offense. So we are addressing those behaviors.
okay. And then what I wanted to ask also is, and maybe you guys know, maybe you don't, is are we turning away students that are being referred because RISE is full? Like, what does that look like? How many students are being turned away? And how do you prioritize then which students are able to go? So like, let's say it was a THC vape, or I'm not saying that's less, or a phone violation, obviously, if it's a continual disrespect of putting the phones away versus fighting and threatening somebody. How do you make room for those students, or are those students automatically put up for expulsion if you don't have room, or how does that work? Sorry, that was complicated.
You're fine. We have not turned away any students this school year. I will say we're sitting at about 124 students. We've had a healthy balance of students coming in and going out as of right now. As we are getting full or get to that point, we'll discuss that, but we have not gotten to that point.
What is the capacity? Do you have a set number?
We're sitting at we have 14 teachers. We're trying to keep our classrooms at about 15 students in each class. So I would say we're around 160.
Okay.
But we have not set a cap this school year.
And I also just wanted to thank you for all you do. I think it's awesome, so I didn't want to just ask questions, but I really do appreciate all you're doing for these students. It's awesome. Thank you.
Particularly for the repeat offenders. What's the parental involvement in the process?
So parents have to come in, they participate in orientation with our students. They meet with me, we discuss their tier assignment, and then I would say our staff has been very good about students that we feel are getting to that point where they might end up going up for another hearing of implementing interventions and having those meetings to make sure that we're trying our best to keep those students in school.
But you're doing everything you can to involve the parents in the process.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you.
And I do have another question to follow up to that. When we first visited the school that we basically studied in order to come up with RISE, they had a program where the faculty, staff, someone from the RISE would visit a follow-up at their home school to see how things were going. And part of that is I know the students that come to RISE, they feel like that's family, and because they have a smaller setting and they can get to know you, you get to know them, et cetera. And so sometimes having someone follow up and making sure that they're continuing with the expectation that you had at RISE, that they're doing that at that other school, sometimes that'll make a difference and they'll listen. Kids have various reasons as to why they decide they want to follow the rules. Maybe Dr. Robbins may say one thing and they go like, yeah, right. And then Chairman, who are you? Anyway, Wimberly, you know, she and her soft tones and all of that may really reach that student, but then she may go over and follow up with that student and encourage him that this is where he needs to be at his home school. And that is, the purpose is not to stay at RISE because you love it.
Right.
The purpose is to get you ready to go back and do what you need to do so that you can graduate.
Absolutely.
And so just want to make sure that we are continuing to do some follow-up. And I know we don't have it's not as though we have all these educators just sitting around with nothing to do, so they'll just run over to RISE. I know every school need each person, each adult in that building, but at some point, if you could just make those surprise visits, go and sit and talk with the teachers and also the students, I think that would be great.
Absolutely. We do reentry visits. We haven't done as many as we would like to do this school year, but that is something that we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely stay in contact with our students and their parents and collaborate with our base schools.
Okay. All right. And I just want to encourage, you know, members of our community, the parents, even educators at your other school, if you can, come to the graduations. I have not made as many as I want to make, but it really makes them feel good to see an audience out there other than just their parents. So we are a community, and as a community, we want to encourage as many young people as we can. So all of our seniored people, that would be a great place for you to spend a Friday morning. And if you need more information, just call up to the district office and we'll tell you when and where you can show up and clap and show your excitement about our students doing what they need to do.
Every Friday at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
And then the next piece of data we'll share with you is very encouraging when we look at our discipline update from all three levels, elementary, middle school, and high school. What you see in front of you is you can see from every elementary, green means they've went down, red means we've added a few referrals from last semester of last year to this semester. You can see the top infractions to the right. And you can see those. And so it's pretty impressive to see a lot of those are decreased in green. And one of the things that we attribute that to is student engagement. One thing our team, the district level team for curriculum instruction, Dr. Wilson and our team has gone out there and looked. You can see a lot of student engagement when we go to classroom visits. Students are engaged, and when students are engaged, you're going to see less discipline. And so when you see this, you can see a lot that most are in green. Those are in red. We do have several programs, extra programs that you will see in some of our buildings that do have a little bit of rise in some of their referrals. For example, Somerville has 4 extra programs that they have, including special education. And so those 4 programs, you could see a little bit of increase in some of discipline referrals. But again, this just shows you what our teachers are doing in the classroom, what we're seeing when we do our district visits. They're doing a great job of keeping kids engaged. And so we'll go on to middle school. Again, for the elementary, again, bus violations, again, are the highest referred offense at the elementary level. We had, of the 3,488 discipline referrals, 25% of them are bus referrals. And this is something that we are going to look at giving training to our bus drivers this summer. When you think of Ruby Payne training, you think of socioeconomics, and I'll give you the example. Many of our students come already kind of amped up when they come in. I'll give you an example of a pop can. If I shook a pop can and threw it to one of you and you open it up right away, it's going to blow up all over you. Well, the best part of our students' day is coming to school. And some of those students, some may not have breakfast, may not see their parent, may not have their homework done. Many of them are amped up before they even get, and our bus drivers are the first people that they see when they get on the bus. And so we know we have some work to do there with Mr. Shope, so we know we can do some things there to hopefully decrease those referrals. But overall, a significant decrease in major discipline referrals from 23-24 semester 1 to 24-25 semester 1. Also, all our elementary schools are implementing Capturing Kids' Hearts. When you're talking about relationships-based and positive behavior, this is a great program, getting to know our students, teachers out in the hallway, greeting students when they come in their classrooms. And so this has had a huge impact on the culture and climate of our buildings in the elementary. And so, again, kudos to our elementary teachers and administrators.
I just want to say thank you so much for making sure that our bus drivers know just how important they are, because they could have left home in a good mood, feeling wonderful. And the bus driver says that one little thing that really messes up their day, or that bus driver say that one thing that makes their day the best day they've ever had. So the first person our students see, even if they're having a bad day, need to make sure they do the best to have a good day in front of that student. So thank you for, putting some attention on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they're part of that cog and that wheel, just like our cafeteria staff. Everybody that comes in contact with our students, you're exactly right, Ms. Powell. Looking at our middle schools, you can see there, big difference again, drop in behaviors and in referrals. Again, we dropped 980 referrals from last semester of last year to this semester. Again, you can see to the right, we're seeing most of where our behaviors are at. And so again, that's kudos again to our teachers for student engagement, and also to our administrators as well getting into classrooms. So again, very positive.
Can I pause you real quick?
Yes.
Just go back to elementary a little bit. Is there any way, I'm assuming that the staff and the principals decipher if these are like repeat offenders? Because obviously with the high school and RISE, we know they're going to RISE, they're coming back, they're a repeat offender. Like, how many of these incidences are the same students? And also, is there a difference between, like, it says inappropriate behavior, so is bullying and all that under that category?
That would be a great question. We just pulled this data. We're able to get that out of Educator's Handbook, but we can get that information for you.
I was curious what, was inappropriate behavior, and just generally speaking, is this like 20 kids committing 381 infractions, or is it 100 kids?
Right.
I think that makes a difference, and to understand what we're doing or how we can help those 20 kids if that's really what it is.
And some of that inappropriate behavior could be, throwing paper, those types of things. Bullying is separated out from that, so bullying is not included in inappropriate behavior.
I just didn't see that specifically referenced, which obviously I do know bullying happens, so that's why
Yes.
I was wondering where that would be categorized if it's not on here.
Yeah, I just did the top two, so
Okay.
there's more infractions, but these were just the top
Okay,
two
yeah.
infractions throughout the whole year through each building. So, and that's what we're able to garner from that report.
Thank you.
But again, going back to middle schools, again, they are down. Major referrals, again, 12% of them are coming from the bus. Again, this is something that we're seeing a trend, and again, a need for some training for some of our bus drivers. Overall, a more than 20% decrease in major discipline referrals from 23-24 semester 1 to 24-25 semester 1. And again, one thing that we're using for our climate and culture is the Jostens Renaissance is being instituted at middle schools. And this deals with climate and culture each of our building. We're focusing on positive behaviors. It also talks about staffalty, and it also rewards staff for doing great things in the classrooms as well, just kind of like capturing kids' hearts. So again, those are positive behaviors and expectations. So kudos to our teachers in the middle schools. And then when you look at the discipline update from the high schools, you can see the difference there. Again, they are in red. A couple things that come to mind when you look at tardies. Cutting class, especially tardies. Those are things that are kind of out of our control when they come to school. I know our principals are doing the best they can at communicating with those parents. There's not a lot of teeth that we have when students continue to come late. Last thing we want to do is kick them out of school for coming late. We want them at school. And so that is a lot out of our building principals and our teachers' hands when coming to tardies. The big increase for Fort Dorchester, when you look at 1,570, you're thinking, what is the big increase there? They had 1,899 tardies this year. So that has been a big concern for them. When you look at that, we're thinking of students in seats. The one thing to kind of overcome that is seat time recovery. So when you're looking at that, that is a huge number that we looked at, and we're like, where's the discrepancy? And so you look at that. Also, there's an increase, too, obviously, with the new phone policy that we have to institute. And also, the board last year talked about dress code. And we talked about, we were talking about hoodies. You're talking about midriff. And that was a big concern last year. I know the board wanted us to tighten that up. We've tightened that up, so there's some referrals there that has increased. But it's not in our top 2. So you can kind of see there. And, again, we're up at the high schools, 2,063. And so, again, the 1,900 of those are from Fort Dorchester High School for tardies.
I just want to say, I would expect, honestly, and this goes across the board for me, I don't know for y'all, but I don't necessarily want to see these numbers go down just for the sake of going down. And with them going up in the high school, that tells me enforcement's happening. So to me, it's not all about are we going up or down or up or down. I would expect to see a lot more dress code. And I would expect to see, obviously, I know Fort, my kids go to Fort, and I know that they are mean business with the phone violations. Like, they are not playing. So the fact that there's so many, I know it's because Mr. Aldridge and his team are like doubling down, and they are doing their job. And so I just want to highlight, like, from the outside perspective, it's red, but to me that says, like, we made a lot of changes with discipline, we made a lot of changes with dress code, we made a lot of changes with the phone policy, and I know, like, with the tardies, I see them there every time I pop in that school. They mean business, and so to me, it's not so much that as much as I know the culture and climate at that school has always been to enforce discipline, but this year especially, I'm seeing, like, a renewed effort to really make sure these kids are being held accountable and the culture and climate of our schools are moving in the right direction, and we're regaining some of that control back. And so kudos to y'all, because those red numbers tell me you're doing your job.
Well, that's a kudos to our administration, our teachers. They're all enforcing that, because it takes a team to enforce that, and they all have to be doing that. So they're doing a good job. So the big thing, discipline on update for high schools, you can see that, again, when comparing first semester of 23-24 to this first semester, 24-25, there definitely was an increase of phone violations, referrals. In addition, as I stated earlier, the update to the policy JICA in April of 24, there's been an increase in dress code violations. So again, our principals are trying to, again, make sure we're enforcing that policy.
If I could piggyback on Ms. Bates' point. So are we getting better at tracking and enforcing tardiness, or is this a genuine increase? I mean, it's a pretty substantial increase in tardiness. And where it's of concern to me is there sufficient consequence? Because people who are tardy are causing disruption then when they finally show up. And does this make it more difficult for the teachers and the administrators to try and get the school, going on time, interrupting process and normal flow?
Yeah, I would agree with you. Absolutely. It does cause a lot of disruption for our teachers and also our administrators. The big thing is we don't have teeth. You know, when you're thinking about educational neglect, when you're talking about parents, we can't turn anything in. Nothing will be done with that. So when you look at the teeth of that, we can use ISS. We use after-school detentions for those when students come in late, make up that time on their time. So again, trying to put some of those, I know that's what they're doing, but that's a great question.
So I would be interested to know, is that tardy in the morning or is that tardy to class?
These are tardies in the morning.
The 1,800 tardies in the morning.
For the first semester, yes.
Wow.
So they're late getting to school.
I mean, that's...
Yes.
Is the principal excuse the infrastructure? They have difficulty in traffic getting to school on time, or is it something else?
Right. What is? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It is tardy to every period. Any period, I'm sorry.
Because that's a different thing. Because once they're there, so then I would like to understand, once they're there, why are they tardy to class? Once they're at the school. If that, I mean, tardy, then do you see what I'm saying? The
yes.
morning piece is definitely much more outside of our control. But once you're in the building, where are you if you're not in class?
Right, and I think that's where it comes down to cutting class. I think when you look at tardies, you're thinking 5 to 10 minutes. When it goes past that, then they're thinking that's cutting class. Then that's seat time recovery that they have to go to. But talking about enforcement, that's being our administrators and teachers being vigilant, being outside in the class or out in the hallways, making sure students are in classes. When you tour buildings with some of our high schools, making sure, I know they'll do sweeps. They make sure that, you know, kids, if they're out in the hallway at a certain time, they'll do hallway sweeps. They've done those before. Kids are in trouble, they do tardies. And so I know they're working very hard to make sure we're getting kids in class because we want kids to learn. And when kids are in class, we don't have issues and disruptions.
Well, you know, before I got on the board, I used to sub at Somerville High, and I visited the high schools since being on the board, and I'm surprised to see, so I would like to see, Robin, the phone violations and the tardies. I want to know specifically which one's the number for the tardies, because when those students heard that downtick of time, they let nothing interfere with them getting where they needed to go. I thought they would run me over because I was standing close to the wall, because they actually focus on getting where they needed to be. And very few children did I see just dragging their way through the hallways. Now, I haven't been over there this year, so maybe something has changed. I don't know, but I know it used to work. And having admin out in the hallway, their presence does make a difference. And every admin, when I was over there, would be out in that hallway. And Kenny couldn't do nothing but lose weight, because guess what? He would be point A, point B, etc. And I have not been with Ms. Leviner as much, but I know she is small in stature, but she is right on it. So I'd like to see that broken down, because I honestly believe our children work hard to get to class. So if it's been a change, then I'm wondering what has happened.
Right. Not a problem. We can find out, do some more digging on that.
Yeah, also, it was kind of along the same line as the elementary school student. My concern is, like we have the data with RISE, is how many of these 1836 or whatever amount of infractions, how many students are causing them at each level? So if we have 30 students that are continually causing an issue, what are we doing about those 30 students? Or is it, you know, really 1,000 students causing 1,800 infractions, you know? So I think that makes a difference, a big difference.
Yeah, and I can tell you this, those are repeat offenders. Usually they go to a hearing. You know, I'm the appeal officer, and so I will see some of those. And so they do go to a hearing. Those that are constant breaking, their infractions, they do go to a hearing.
Do they ever just get sent back to the school? Or if it's like, let's say you do continually have a lot of infractions, is it RISE or expulsion, or are these kids often sent back then?
Yeah,
I'm
some will go to RISE, some are sent back on probation, some are expelled, depending on the severity of the consequence or the event that they've done. So
yeah, I think it'd definitely be helpful to get a breakdown, if possible, if this is how many students are making up the offenses, if that makes sense. So if we have 1836 for offenses and it was 1,000 students, that would be great. And then just a little side note to what you said, every time I go to Fort, I have to give them a shout out. I do not see an administrator in that hallway. Like, they are all hands on deck and they rock it out. So I honestly would be at a loss of what that would be. So.
Well, and I can just speak for, like Somerville and at Ashley Ridge. They're out in the hallways all the time. I'll give you this. Somerville's out. They have a lot of our principals will be on carts, so they have their computer with them. They'll be out there. They're issuing tardies. They're talking with students, telling students to get to classes. They're outside of restrooms, making sure students are not being disruptive in restrooms. So we have a really good high school staffs that do a great job of trying to enforce the rules. So, I would echo what you're saying about Fort, also at Ashley Ridge.
Preschool for sure, but
Right.
I'm just there a
But
lot.
Right, your kids go there, yes. But I would say this, I would echo that for all three high schools.
Okay, my last point. I don't see, and I know you said you weren't including them, but I would like to see some information regarding the types of bullying behaviors and how many how many repeat offenders with that, and because I think that's a very serious situation we need to look into.
Yep.
Not just here in District 2, but I've been reading all across South Carolina, and we just have to do something.
Absolutely. We can bring some of that to the board as well.
Thank you.
And just give you a little bit of update, again, what all our schools are doing. PBIS is implemented at every level. The one thing that we're really working on to clean up some of our discipline to make sure we're consistent across all levels is we're trying to develop a discipline matrix, and that will be developed at each level that aligns with our board policy. And so Mr. Cannon, who is our director of secondary schools, and also Carrie Ball, who is our director of our elementary schools, and they are working with our principals. And so right before Christmas, we have worked after every admin meeting. And what does that matrix look like? It'll say first offense is this, second offense is this. And the one thing we want to be is make sure we're consistent and we're transparent. Many districts surrounding already have their matrices out there. If you look, and I was looking at our parent-student handbook, we do have a matrix for technology. And so we want to incorporate our technology violations also with our discipline as well that happens in our schools. And so our principals are working together to come up with these matrices so it will look uniform across the district. And so they've been working tirelessly to get that done. And so we'll hopefully have that finished in the next couple months and be able to bring that to the board and also share with all of you and have that for next year. So that's one of the things we're looking at doing. So the other thing we have behavioral therapists, 13 of them in the district working at all levels. That helps work with students that have behaviors, gives them some coping skills, how to cope, and gives them some skills in how to behave in classes. And if they get to that point where they are getting to a point where they feel like they're going to explode, they have some coping skills and mechanisms they can do. Panorama is a platform to track behavior interventions and discipline data. When we're very good about tracking students that are not performing at grade level academically, but we're not very good at tracking behavior and interventions throughout the district. And so especially for behavior. And so when you're looking at MTSS, a multi-tiered support system is training with emphasis on behavior. We're very good at academics, but the other side of the MTSS system is behavior. And so we're very blessed to have the 13 BCA, BAs and working at all levels. We have school counselors provided. They targeted support at all levels. We have mental health and social workers at all levels that support students and families to get the families engaged. And then also all levels have an online platform for additional support, Microburst, Jostens Renaissance, and Second Step. And then we've also provided de-escalation strategy provided to teachers, staff working with students with exceptional needs and behaviors. And then we've got check-in, check-out mentors used as an intervention support at all levels. And then we also, Dr. Gadsden provided Dr. Giovanni, who came and spoke to the district. And we've done book talks with our administration to come up with interventions to help with students with behaviors. And so you can see the things that we're trying to do to address behavior. I know we always talk about academics, but we need to also talk about behavior that gets lost. And so this is going to help give some of our teachers and our administrators some tools in their toolbox to help students with behaviors.
Dr. Robbins, this is more a question for you or just kind of for you to come to later because I don't think you'll have the answer today. But obviously one of our goals that we set was an anti-bullying conflict resolution course. It says measures on there, but I believe we were looking at offering classes. Could we get an update at the next board meeting on where we are with that initiative?
Is there any other questions I could?
So if I can ask a favor, and of course, when we talk about discipline, none of us like looking at that side of the house, but if we're going to have the column showing discipline, I think all of our schools do positive referrals as well. Can we also add the column or the difference, however you want to show that, of the positive referrals that we're doing in our schools?
Absolutely. We can talk about what those positive strategies are and what we're doing in each school. That will be not a problem at all. Any other questions I could ask for the board? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chad. Mr. Forsythe, are you going to present the monthly safety report?
Good evening, Dr. Robbins, board members. I'm filling in for Director Giant today to go over the safety logs. Do we have a list of them up here?
They're in their packet.
Okay. First of all, before going into the numbers that we've done in the actual schools during the daytimes, I just wanted to go over our success in using the open gate systems. First of all, we're using the open gate magnetometers at every sporting event, as you know, in the district. They've been a tremendous success, not only in deterrence, but overall. We're also using them as our official counter when people come into the schools so that we can give that information to the fire marshal directly. He can come in, he can get access, and if he has any questions on the number of people that have entered the event, we can give it to him directly. In fact, if you were to leave here right now and go to Somerville High School, where they have the wrestling match against AR, or Ashley Ridge basketball game, you would see the magnetometers in full use. We've also implemented them at every DD2 in-house event at the Performing Arts Center. That's something that we started over the last 2 months. So anybody that comes into the Performing Arts Center in our facility goes through the magnetometers. We also have it in place that if private vendors want to use them as well, they can also use them, and we will be there to staff them. We've implemented them at all middle school sports as well. We're trying our best to get security at each of those events, but we have trained the middle school administrators how to use those systems. We still are in the process of teaching them how to use them and getting to all of the events that we can do them. So they've been a tremendous success. As far as the numbers go, the log for November, I'm trying to find the exact numbers here. For Somerville High School, for November, we had 2,294 scans for students during the daytime. At Ashley Ridge High School, we had 1,509 scans for students during the daytime. And Fort Dorchester High School, we had 1,040 scans during the daytime. For the month of December, at Fort Dorchester High School, we had 700 students scanned, 821 students scanned at Somerville High School, and 1,109 students scanned at Ashley Ridge High School. Now, the reason some of those numbers are small is obviously we had Christmas break, which was 2 weeks during that time. We also had Thanksgiving break, and during the month of November and December, we had testing and exams that we had to work with the principals, and we just were not able to get enough students through them. But we have implemented a plan going forward with the schools and with the administrators that we're going to actually send out a directive tomorrow where we will have more students going through, and we'll have more implementation of the open gates during the daytime.
Sorry, I have questions. Do we have the log for Chester?
I do not have the Chester log. I can get it, and bring it to you, but I do not have it.
And you might have said this, but I think I misheard you. I wasn't sure if you were talking about just extracurriculars or middle school in general, but do we have a timeline to roll out using them in the middle schools?
So we're already using them in the middle schools for extracurricular events.
But like during the day, kind of like we are with the high school?
During the daytime, so we do not have security in the middle schools right now to staff them. So it would be up to the administrators at this time to staff them on top of their other duties.
Yeah, that's been one of the hurdles at the high schools. We have security personnel that can staff them. At the middle schools, we don't. We have an SRO. And to take our administrators away to do that, we're still trying to figure out a plan. Are we going to hire, some PRN folks to do it for us? It just takes, it's very laborious.
No, for sure.
To be able to run those things. So we don't have a real good measure in place yet for that.
We have gone over and offered training and offered ourselves during the daytime to help. It's just the high schools keep us pretty busy.
Thank you. Lastly, can we get a log or report or something on the amount of times, I guess, people are using the anonymous reporting system? I'm curious, like the usage and
absolutely
if we're seeing it being used. And
absolutely, we monitor that every day, and we have those numbers.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Jason, if you give that to me, just send me those numbers, and
Yes, sir.
I'll include it in my soup update to the board.
Yes, sir. I'll send it to you.
Thanks. Mr. Smith, Mr. Souls, y'all know you're up next. Why aren't you down there waiting? Come on.
My blood pressure is up a little bit. I'll take a little break. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Robbins. Got your referendum, 2024 referendum project update. Sand Hill Elementary Wing, the big news there is the groundbreaking ceremony. Dr. Robbins already mentioned that. Thursday, 11 o'clock. You'll already be there. Hope to see everybody there. Elementary school, the Ponds. We've got a GMP meeting, a guaranteed maximum price meeting with the CM on the 29th. And Hood Construction is the CM at risk on that job. So this will be the second round of looking at their pricing and seeing what we can do to scrub it and save a few more dollars. The big news at the Ponds Elementary is we found out this morning that we have gotten approval for the coastal zone consistency. And that's a major hurdle that clears the way for land disturbance permits and everything we got to get from the county to get started and start moving some ground. The roofing and exterior wall renovations, those projects are still with the design team being designed. In the pipeline, the Summerville High School gym, we have a concept now. We've got the architect, which is McMillan Pasden Smith, married up with Thompson Turner Construction. That's a great team. That's going to be a great project. And the design development is in progress, and we have a meeting, probably, I think we've got it Friday, next Friday with the team there at the school to get their input. So we have all the stakeholders in on the conversation. Ashley Ridge High School, we met with those folks out there, Miss Matthews and her folks. We met with them week before last to nail down or tighten up the design on what we were talking about there. We've got Harper Construction as a CM at risk, married up with Little Diversified Architectural Consultants, and that design development is in progress as well. At Somerville High School, or Somerville Elementary School addition, we've got contract construction is selected as CM at risk. They're working with Greenberg Farrow as a design firm, and that development is in process. And we've got some concepts for each of these, and we're on a daily basis, we are tweaking and talking with design firms, with the schools, and making sure that we meet our needs and meet the letter of the referendum questions as well. The one thing we are at the ponds, I know everybody wants to, talk about the ponds, but we are in constant conversations with everybody at the ponds all the time. So we've got some wheels moving, and great news is going to come out of that here shortly. That's like it for the referendum stuff. Any questions for me? Mutt and Jeff show. Here's Jeff.
All right, so just some quick updates on some of the normal facilities products do 8% TIF, and a little bit of referendum stuff in here as well, the smaller items. Track at Fort Dorchester High School, they're scheduled to start striping Thursday. Obviously, last week, weather didn't really permit striping, but they have turned over the track for use for practice, so they are able to use it right now, but the striping will actually take place Thursday and Friday, tentatively. The bus maintenance facility at Oak Brook, that's still with OSF. We expect that to come along as soon as they finish like the middle school and elementary school addition. So it'll kind of just be a flow from the middle school to the elementary school to the bus facility. The Oak Brook Middle School addition, so the building permits received, and we're tentatively planning to start demo on the existing trailers the first week of February. The elementary school, we have a couple things to finalize for our permitting, but that'll follow kind of like EdCom will start the middle school, and after they get the foundation done there and all the site work, they'll kind of move into the elementary school building as well. So it'll kind of be a continuous project at that campus. The softball field press box for Somerville High School, that actually got put out last week. So we are expecting, I believe it's the 16th is when the bids are due. So once we get that in, we'll evaluate those bids and make a decision on that. The tennis courts are under design, and we still feel very confident that they'll be able to be awarded and bid and constructed before the season starts in August. The Newington and Flowertown HVAC, we've already got a PO issued. Some of that work's going to start over spring break, and we see no reason why that won't be completed this summer. The locker rooms and gym at Somerville High School, they've had a lot of issues over the years with their fresh air units and the AC units in general that cool that space. We had an issue last year where that went down over July 4th week. We ended up having to replace all their pads and helmets. So we're expected to have that done this summer. It's going to be really tight, but I think we have about an 18-week lead time on the equipment. But the PO has been issued, so we feel like it'll be in before we get to that July 4th week this summer. Oak Brook Middle School, we're still waiting on quotes, but we expect to get this school done this summer as well. Those are all split systems, so they're a little bit more difficult to install, but we still feel like we can get it done this summer. We were going to do both schools, but we're going to just tackle the middle school first, and then next summer we'll do the elementary school. And we still have some upcoming projects, which are those HVAC conversions and a few schools that we're going to do complete HVAC replacements on. Obviously, Somerville Elementary is not technically the whole campus because we're going to be tearing down that wing in the back. And let's see, what else do we have? The facilities department, in our office, we've got several of the referendum projects that are for the schools, such as Knightsville, which is like a full abatement, and flooring replacement. Those are all actively being scoped out and getting quotes and bids. So those we'll probably have 2 or 3 of those start this summer as well. That's all I've got, if there's any questions.
All right, Madam Chair, the final thing I have under my report is personnel recommendations, and all those were in your packets.
Thank you, Dr. Robbins. Yes, board members, the personnel report was included in our packets, so if everyone is okay with doing that in open session, okay, we will proceed. I will ask for a motion to approve the personnel recommendations and resignations as presented in our packet. Thank you, Ms. Bates. Do I have a second?
Everybody's like,
thank you, Mr. Guthrie. At this time, any questions or comments?
Just one comment as I'm looking through the resignations and retirements and whatnot. Very few transferring to another school district, but a lot of them saying personal relocation or whatever. Mm-hmm. So as I'm looking at that, are we really having a problem with other school districts Or do we just live in a very mobile society and we're dealing with those consequences?
Yeah, a couple years ago, I made note that we noticed a trend where it's a change in this generation. I'll give you a real quick example. I had a teacher who was a beginning teacher of the year in my previous school district. She was born and raised in that school district, and I got her resignation. And I went out to see her, and I'm like, what, is something happened? Some way we can support you? She just said, I'm young. I want to take advantage of moving and traveling. I can always come back home when I want to. And so again, much different than our generation where you came, you stayed, and you didn't leave. So we're really seeing a lot more of that across the country.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, we will call for the vote. Okay, and the motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent.
That's all I have tonight, Madam Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Robbins and team. All right, our next item on the agenda is our public comments, and this evening we have one public comment, Ms. Kiana Mullins.
More cakes.
This looks like a good public comment.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kiana Mullins. I am a 6th grade teacher here in Dorchester 2, and I am a parent of students in Dorchester 2. And I'm also the vice president of the Somerville Education Association. So on behalf of the association, the Somerville Education Association, along with my president, Michelle Meyer, we would like to thank our school board. It is School Board Appreciation Month. So we would like to thank you all for your dedication and your leadership in supporting our students, teachers, and our community. We appreciate your willingness to listen to our ideas, to collaborate with us, and make thoughtful decisions that have a lasting impact. Your hard work does not go unnoticed, and we are grateful for all that you do and for your dedication. So on behalf of the Somerville Education Association and the South Carolina Education Association, we would like to say thank you for all you do. And so we have for you nothing but cakes and thank you cards again for everything that you do. So we appreciate you.
Thank you. That's right.
Thank you so much. And are these your children? They sat through our entire board meeting. That's very impressive. Thank you very much. That's true dedication. All right, board members, at this time, I would ask for a motion to convene into executive session for legal advice regarding potential litigation.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Seconded by Ms. Powell. Any questions or comments?
Madam Chair,
Hearing none.
if you don't mind, and just a point, because I see Chief Wright is here, and we did not get a chance. I apologize, because I know it's not really a chance, but I wanted to acknowledge his presence. Our Chief of Police is with us tonight. Chief, thank you for being here, and thank you for the partnership with our school district. Very, very much appreciated, so thank you.
Okay, and at this time, I will call for the vote. And the motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. We are in executive session and we will return. board members, at this time, I would ask for a motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, seconded by Ms. Powell. Any questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for the vote. Okay, and the motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. We are back in open session. At this time, we have no action required from our executive session, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Mr. Lee. I apologize. Motion made by Mr. Lee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Guthrie. Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we will call for the vote. Oh, Cynthia, what are you doing? Okay, and the motion carries 5 in favor, 1 absent, and 1 abstention. We are adjourned.